I've showed short pump to a lot of people over the years, and almost every single time, the first thing they say when they start driving around is some version of, okay, you were right. Everything really is here. Grocery store, doctor, gym, dinner, Target, school pickup, it's all within about a 3-mile radius of each other. For a lot of people coming from bigger cities or more rural areas, that hits differently than they expected. But here's what I always tell people before we start looking out here. Short pump is not one thing. What you see from Broad Street on a Saturday afternoon is not what you're actually buying when you buy a house here. And if you judge the whole area from one busy intersection, you're going to either rule it out when you shouldn't, or fall in love with it before you understand what you're actually getting into. I've been in Richmond my whole life, and I want to tell you something most people making videos about short pump honestly can't say. I moved to short pump when I was in kindergarten. At that point, West Broad Street was a 2-lane road, 1 lane going in each direction. The area was mostly farmland and woods. There was no mall. If you needed groceries, you drove to Gayton Crossing, about 10 minutes away. And if you wanted to do any real shopping, you went to Regency Square, which back then was the destination for this part of Richmond. JCPenney, Sears, Miller and Rhodes, Tallheimers, that was the lineup. Where West Broad Village sits today, what you see here behind me, all of that was farmland. Dairy cows as far as the eye could see. I say that not to be nostalgic. I say it because it tells you something important. This didn't happen by accident. Henrico County made a decision to develop Western Henrico in a specific direction. And over the course of my lifetime, it went from a 2-lane road and a grocery run at Gayton Crossing to one of the most sought after suburban addresses in Virginia. It started as a residential community, and it still is one at its core. It just grew up around itself, and I've watched every stage of that happen. That perspective is part of what I want to give you in this video. Not just what short pump looks like on Zillow right now, but what it actually is, how it functions, and whether it's the right fit for your life. Short pump is technically a census designated place in Western Henrico County. Not its own city, not its own incorporated town. That matters practically. Your taxes go to Henrico, your schools are Henrico County Public Schools, and your local government is Henrico County. The area sits right off of 64, which is a big part of why it developed the way it did. Most people's first impression of short pump is Broad Street, the commercial corridor, the town center, the restaurants, the shopping. That's the front door. But here's the thing locals know. We rarely drive down Broad Street, and we certainly don't during peak hours. Short pump is built on a grid, which means there are parallel roads running alongside Broad that most visitors never discover. Once you live here, you learn the back roads. You learn the routes that keep you off Broad entirely, and the area starts functioning completely differently than it looked on that first visit. Here's the most honest way I can describe what it feels like to live in short pump. It's built for people who have a lot going on and want their location to work for them rather than against them. Think about a normal week. Work, kids' activities, groceries, a doctor's appointment, dinner with friends, a return at Target, some version of a workout if you can fit it in. In a lot of places, doing all of that means driving all over the metro and losing time every single day. In short pump, most of that fits in a pretty tight loop. People who move here from areas with limited options sometimes almost don't believe it. They keep waiting for the catch. The catch is Broad Street at 5:15 on a Friday, or the 2 weeks before Christmas, or any given Saturday when it seems like everyone in Henrico County also decided they needed something from Trader Joe's at the same time. But here's what I want to be clear about. That's Broad Street. If you learn the parallel roads the way locals do, you can largely avoid that. The residential streets behind the commercial corridors are genuinely peaceful. Quiet neighborhoods, mature trees, people out walking their dogs in the evenings. First-time visitors who only see the Broad Street version of short pump are genuinely surprised when they turn off the main road and see what's back there. Now, I want to correct something you'll hear in a lot of other short pump videos. Saying Short Pump is purely car dependent and not walkable isn't the full picture. West Broad Village, where we are right now, and Greengate are specifically designed for a more walkable lifestyle. You can walk out your door to restaurants, coffee, shops. It's a different feel from the larger subdivisions. So if walkability matters to you, it's worth looking at those areas specifically within Short Pump rather than ruling out the area entirety. Before we keep going, if you're watching this because you're seriously looking at Short Pump or anywhere else in the Richmond area, I want to be your insider. I grew up here. I know these neighborhoods in a way you only can when you've watched them change over decades. And I specialize in helping people relocate to Richmond from out of the area. If you're getting close to making a decision, grab a spot on my calendar here. It's called the Richmond Welcome Call. 30 minutes, no pitch, just a real conversation about what neighborhood actually fits your life before you fall for the wrong house. And if you're still in research mode, not quite ready to talk to anyone yet, I have a free relocation guide here. It's the starting point I wish every out-of-town buyer had. Links for both are below. I'm not going to list every restaurant and store in Short Pump. You can find that anywhere. What I'll tell you is what actually ends up in people's rotation once they live here. For weeknight dinners, when nobody wants to think too hard, Sedona Tap House, Firebirds, Cooper Hawks. Solid options where you can get a reservation or walk in and not wait forever. For the parks, Short Pump Park is right at the heart of the area, and it's genuinely nice. Spray fountains, play areas, athletic fields, a dog park, and a restored 1902 two-room schoolhouse sitting right in the middle of it. That surprises people. They picture parking lots and find a real neighborhood park. This is something that doesn't come up enough in videos about Short Pump, so I want to spend some time on it. The community here is more active than people expect. A lot of the subdivisions organize their own events, Halloween parades, Christmas parades, 4th of July celebrations, potluck dinners, mom's nights out. If you move into one of those larger established neighborhoods, there's often a built-in social calendar waiting for you. But even if you end up in a smaller subdivision without all of that, you're not on your own. There are fairs, festivals, and community events almost every weekend within about 20 minutes drive. One more practical thing worth knowing before you fall in love with the community: HOA living is the norm in most Short Pump subdivisions. If you've never lived under an HOA before, it's worth understanding what that actually means day to day. There are rules about paint colors, fence heights, lawn maintenance, what you can park in your driveway, sometimes what kind of holiday decorations are allowed, and for how long. Most people adjust quickly and don't think about it much after the first year. But if you have strong feelings about doing whatever you want with your property, read the HOA documents carefully for any community you're seriously considering before you get emotionally attached to a house. This is where I want to slow down, because Short Pump on a listing does not tell you nearly enough. Two houses can both say Short Pump and feel completely different once you're actually living in them. One might be tucked into a quiet neighborhood where you barely notice the commercial area. Another might have a morning commute that involves Broad Street traffic every single day. Neither is wrong, but you need to know which one you're getting. Single-family homes are the majority of what you'll find here. You're generally looking between $450,000 into the $700,000 and above range, depending on the neighborhood, the age of the home, the lot, and the location. The more established neighborhoods, areas like Wellesley, Hardings Trace, Church Run, and off of Church Road, tend to have larger lots, mature landscaping, and homes that feel settled. Newer pockets will have more updated finishes. One practical detail that most buyers don't think to ask about: Henrico County Division of Fire has an ISO rating of 1. That's the highest possible rating, and very few counties in the country achieve it. What that can mean for you is lower homeowners insurance rates. So when you're running the numbers on a specific house, it's worth asking your insurance agent about. And Henrico Fire is an all-paid department. If you are calling 911 and a fire truck or an ambulance shows up, they don't send you a bill afterwards. That's not how it works everywhere. And for people relocating from areas where that's a real concern, it's genuinely good to know. One note on price per square foot. Short Pump tends to run higher than some other Richmond suburbs. You're paying for the location, the school district, and the convenience. If you compare it purely on square footage to somewhere like Mechanicsville or parts of Chesterfield, Short Pump will look expensive. That's not a flaw, it's demand. Go in knowing that so it doesn't catch you off guard. I'm not going to tell you one school is better than another. That's not my place. And honestly, the school picture in Short Pump doesn't really require that kind of ranking. What I can tell you is that the schools serving this area are part of Henrico County Public Schools, which consistently performs well statewide. And there really isn't a school in Short Pump that isn't strong. That's genuinely unusual and worth knowing. What I will not do is tell you which school your child will attend based on where you're looking. School assignments in Henrico County is address specific. Being near a school does not mean you're assigned to it. A listing description does not determine your school zone. The only way to know for certain is to use the Henrico County Public Schools assignment locator with the exact address of the home you're considering. I'll put that link in the description along with several other resources I give all of my relocation clients. Average commute time from Short Pump runs around 22 minutes based on census data. Take that as a baseline, not a guarantee. One thing worth knowing specifically about Short Pump's location that most videos skip entirely, Innsbrook and West Creek are both right here near Short Pump, essentially in Short Pump's backyard. Innsbrook alone is a 630-acre business park with over 500 companies and 22,000 employees. It's home to 2 Fortune 1000 headquarters, along with major employers in finance, insurance, healthcare, biotech, and tech. If you're relocating for a job at a company in that corridor, Short Pump isn't just a convenient place to live. Your commute could be 5 to 10 minutes door to door. That changes the math considerably for a lot of buyers, and it's something worth knowing before you start your home search. Your actual experience also depends on where in Short Pump you live, where you're going, and when you leave. But here's what I want you to understand about Short Pump traffic. It's predictable. Once you learn the parallel roads and the back routes, the traffic picture changes considerably. We don't drive Broad Street the way visitors do. The grid means there are usually 2 or 3 other ways to get where you're going. VDOT and Henrico County have a transportation improvement project in the works for the Short Pump area. My honest advice before you commit to a house: drive your actual commute route at the actual time you'd be leaving. Not on a Sunday afternoon, on a Tuesday at 7:45 in the morning. The drive from certain pockets of Short Pump to certain parts of the metro is genuinely easy. Other routes have enough stoplights that the mileage on paper doesn't match the time in real life. Let me be straightforward here. Short Pump works really well for specific people, and it's genuinely not the right fit for others. Both things are true, and I'd rather tell you that up front than you have to figure it out after you've already moved. It tends to work really well for families with kids who care about school quality and want everyday life to be manageable. For people relocating from Northern Virginia, New York, New Jersey, or other higher cost areas who want to feel like they have breathing room without giving up access to things they're used to having nearby. Here's what I want to leave you with before the closing, because it's the thing I watch for the most with the families I stay in touch with after closing. Around the 3 to 6 month mark, something shifts. The new place stops being the new place. It just becomes home. By 6 months, most families tell me some version of the same things. The house feels like theirs. The boxes are gone. They've found their coffee spots, their park, their grocery store routine, their restaurant rotation. The kids have friends, which is almost always the biggest fear going into a move, and it almost always resolves faster than people expect. The school community does its work. By month 6, there are play dates and parents they know by name. The commute has normalized into the background of daily life in a way the old commute never did because it's genuinely shorter. That time is now just theirs. They've filled it with things that matter, and the move itself, the big scary decision, stops coming up in conversation. It stops being something they reference because it's not the new thing anymore. It's just their life. That's what I'm working towards for every family I help relocate to Short Pump, not just a closed transaction. The moment 3 to 6 months later when it feels just right. If Short Pump is on your list and you want to talk through whether it's actually the right fit for your family, I'd love to be that conversation. I grew up here. This is what I do every day. The Richmond Welcome Call link is right here. 30 minutes, no pressure, just real local knowledge. And if you're still early in the process, grab my free relocation guide here. It's a great place to start. Both links are also in the description. Thanks for watching. If you're comparing Short Pump to other parts of Richmond, I'll put that video up now.